Hi, I'm Ben Pinder and welcome back to another edition of Agri-Marketing Mastery, and this video we're going to dive a little bit deeper and we're looking at how you can leverage social media when you're trying to promote your agribusiness PR and content marketing and blogs and things like that. We've previously done some videos around the best social media channels to use for when you're speaking to farmers and how best to use them as well, so have a look at those if you need to know a little bit more about how to use the social media. And what we'll do with this is we'll just look at, once you've got your social media channels established and you know what you're doing and where your audiences are, how you can then really best use it to really promote what you're trying to do. So, just to give us a quick bit of an overview to get started, social media is becoming really important in agribusiness. It was probably slower than most to pick it up and adopt, but it is becoming a really key part of any digital marketing you're doing and how you communicate and engage with your audiences. And some really good stats. So there's farmers now, 82% of farmers are using social media on a daily basis. And that number is growing, but it has grown exponentially in the last sort of 5 years or so. It's really taken off. So it's something you've got to be involved in and you've got to be engaging in. Another really interesting stat, and it's a relatively new figure I found from Business Wire that have done some survey, which looks beyond just agribusinesses, but the business community as a whole, that says 84% of people now are using social media to influence the buying decisions. So it just really helps to reinforce how important it is that you're out there on social media and you're really utilising it to its full potential to connect with those potential customers and then leveraging them to buy and get involved. So when it comes to the benefits of social media really, and actually using that to promote your PR, your content marketing, instead of relying on traditional channels like going out just to the ag media or using advertorials or brochures or inserts, whatever you're handing out at shows, social media gives you that opportunity to reach a much wider audience. Not everybody's going to be turning up at your stand or reading the Farmer's Guide or the Farmer's Weekly or whichever publication they choose. So social media allows you to engage with a much wider audience, and you can do it in a far more targeted and engaging way as well, because you're going to know who you want to speak to, where they're going to be, and target those particular communities. Another really good benefit of social media is it shows the personality of the business. It helps you to convey your values, who you are, what you're about, and that's a really critical part of building those relationships with customers. And for those of you who've seen the videos I've done before, I bang on relentlessly about relationships and how they're important, because it's all about trust in farming. They've got to trust you're giving them a really good product or service, and you're also going to be there to help them understand and make the best use of it. So by using social media, you get to show who you are, what your personality is, what your values are, and it allows people to build that personal connection with you, and that makes it so much easier as they go down that sales funnel. Another key element is it allows you to provide real-time updates, and that's something that's quite difficult in farming. So much of it is either on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis if you're looking at the more sector-specific ag content. So with social media, you can put it out there instantly, you can react quickly, you can engage, you can respond, and that's not something you can do with the more traditional means. Another really important element is the analytics aspect of it as well. Social media gives you some really good insights, and it's something you should be looking at because it tells you what content's engaging with your audience, what's provoking the most response, the most comments, the thoughts, and it allows you to start to build up a really good insight into what your customer's looking for, what they're responding to, where they are. So make sure you're going back to your analytics and understanding what's making your customers respond and react and tick, and then it starts to help refine and dial in what you're doing with your social media. And the final point with using social media channels is it puts you in control. To a degree, there is always an element of risk with social media, obviously how it's going to land and how people are going to react. But by controlling your own social media channels, you're not dependent on the journalist interpreting it correctly, because a journalist isn't restricted to what they write about you. They can come down, interview, take your press release, read your blog content, whatever it is, take out what they want from it, and it might not be exactly what you're trying to convey or put forward. So with social media, obviously you write the content, you're in control. So in terms of the social media channels themselves, I think for farmers, Facebook is probably the most important. That's where you're going to find the bulk of your farmers, and Facebook has some really good tools for building up a really detailed audience around farming, and it's something we work quite hard at Red Stag. We've built up quite a refined and targeted audience on Facebook, knowing we now can target farmers very effectively through Facebook. Instagram is only growing in importance. It's probably second most important social media channel for farmers, and it's probably more at the younger end, but it's really, really growing in importance. Just do think about using Instagram, how you can use that effectively as part of your social media strategy. Twitter continues to have value. There's a lot of farming people on Twitter, so make sure you've got some presence on there. LinkedIn, less so, but there will be some of the big farming businesses and things like that, or the big farm organisations, they will be using LinkedIn because they're starting to think a bit more strategically from a corporate point of view. So think about how you can use that. TikTok, I've put a question mark on. It's something that is rising in popularity. It's not hugely important at the minute. There's a much younger audience on there, really. So it's just thinking about having an eye on it. Is there an opportunity there? If your audience, as you'll have seen other videos where we've spoken about really starting to understand who your market is, understand if they're going to be on TikTok, you need to know where they are. And the one to always remember that most people don't always consider as a social media channel is YouTube, and YouTube is really important. More and more farmers are looking for some good educational insights through YouTube, hence this, obviously the video here, but they're also looking at different practices, things like that. So make sure you're thinking about how you can utilize YouTube to get your PR and content across as well, because it's a really powerful channel. If you can turn it into a video, you will start to see some really good engagement through those channels. So just before we go on to the main aspects of how you're going to leverage social media to drive that PR and content, I just wanted to touch on a little bit of best practice. I mean, obviously, social media is a great opportunity to not only promote your content, but by getting that content out there and in an engaging and interesting way, it's also helping to promote the offer. So just think about how you're promoting that content. Is it helping to convey your personality? Is it showing the offer? Doesn't want to be salesy, because people switch off when it's really salesy. I mean, maximum 20% of your tweets need to be sales focused. The rest of it needs to be engaging and interesting. But when you're getting that PR or that content out there, break it down. I think the general rule of thumb is when you put a post out, only about 20% of your audience is actually going to see that post. So you need to be trying to get something about that content out there at least 5 times. And when I say break it down, there's an opportunity. In a press release, for example, there's going to be different stats, different quotes, different elements of the story. Break it down into 5 or 6 different tweets or updates or whatever it needs to be that highlights a quote or something like that. And what it allows you to do is put that same content out several times, but each time it feels different and a little bit more engaging. So think about how you can break it down and maximise the potential of that piece of content and push it out across multiple posts. And the final thing with that best practice is exactly that, be engaging. It's a social channel, so be social. So this is about asking questions, sharing opinions, anything that's going to provoke a bit of a response, drive some engagement, and that's the critical thing. You've got to try and drive that engagement and really get people to respond and resonate and enjoy it and feel the personality of the brand and start to build up that rapport and relationship and feel they can engage in some interesting conversations with you. So now we're looking at the leveraging of it, and these are just some of the ideas about how you can really make use of your social media channels to get people to engage with that content, start to dig deeper, go through to your website, look at the products and offers and services you've got on offer. So one of the first things is target people. So you want to be targeting your key customers, those that you really want to be working with. If you've got some interesting content, tag them in, use that @ symbol and actually directly tag them in, get them to have a look at it, say, hey, such and such, have you seen this? I thought you'd find it interesting, whatever it needs to be. So targeting key people. So look at your existing customer network, get them tagged into it, encourage them to share. As I say, those key targets you want to work with, do the same. And influencers as well. This is something that's really, really starting to rise in popularity in farming in particular. There's a lot of growing influencers who have got a big impact within the farming community. So if you can engage an influencer within your social media feeds, it's trying to push your PR and content, it will have a very big and quick impact. So try and involve the influencers. Look at the best ways to do that. Again, you can just tag them in, but it might be that it's best to have a conversation with them, send them some free products so they can try it out, get them talking about it too, and you're really going to start to see not only your social media audience grow, but everything you're putting out there will have a bigger impact as well. In a similar way, leverage your network. So we've already spoken about going out to your existing customers and getting them to encourage them to share and post it around. The same with your existing social media network, encourage them to share. But key things like your own staff, you might be a big organisation, why not encourage your staff to share your content so that it's going to get out to a much bigger audience? And I've put leaders on there because I think it's really important that business leaders are actually on social media, they're out there, they're being seen, and this is about making them thought leaders really. So it really helps to demonstrate the expertise in your business, the level of experience, the depth of knowledge, and by getting your leaders out there and talking about what matters to them, their opinions, their insights, it really starts to position you as an industry expert. And that's something I've spoken about a few times as well, but it's really about putting yourself out there and being seen as the expert, the one that can be trusted to do what you promise to do essentially. So get your leaders on social media, get them building their own brand, and get them to share this PR and content, because it's really starting to show their expertise, their insights, their level of support and offer they're giving to the industry. So get your leaders involved. When it comes to targeting, think about the journalists as well. You will be sending your press release out probably through traditional channels or using an agency like us, and we probably use a distribution service, or picking up the phone and doing some private or personal conversations with the journalists. But there's no reason why you can't be doing it through social media as well. Pretty much every journalist is going to have a social media presence, and there's an opportunity to tag them in and go direct. The one thing I will warn you is our distribution service we use is a major, it's the biggest in the world, and they offer some really good insights. They've just done a survey that shows if you send a direct message to a journalist on social media, it's unsolicited, or you don't have an existing relationship, they can be quite hostile to it. So don't just be spamming a journalist. Try and make sure you've got a reason to contact them, or you've got an existing relationship, and put it out that way. There's opportunities to actually put packages together as part of these direct messages as well. So you can think about putting your image and your press release together as part of that message, and actually sending a direct package that way. It might be a more effective way of reaching the journalist rather than actually sending it over on email, for example. And the other thing to watch out for, there's a variety of hashtags on different social media platforms. And the key one you probably want to be looking out for is hashtag journo request. It's something you see on Twitter quite a lot, but the other platforms have similar things. And that's actually journalists reaching out for ideas, help. What they'll be looking for is people who can comment. They might want some answers to questions. They might want some good content or products that they're looking to review or include as part of a feature. So keep an eye on that, because the chances are, through that social media, you'll see a request that'll be relevant to you, and you can quickly respond to them and say, we can help out with that. And it's a great inroad to getting more publicity and coverage for what you do. Another one is topical issues. There's obviously, it's a hugely challenging period for farming, so there's loads of different things being discussed, and it's quite a range of hot topics. If you've got good quality blog content or press releases that are relevant to these topical issues, jump on that at the time. And if you're lucky, there might even be a trending hashtag or something like that. But if there's a topical issue, you say, this is something we've spoken about before, have a read of this blog that answers the issue, or it might be a press release, but have an opinion. This goes back to being engaging. You can share your thoughts, your insights, your opinion on these topical issues, and at the same time encouraging people to read through the blog or read through the press release, which not only promotes you, but you're constantly driving people back to the website, which has a big impact on the SEO value. And if you're interested in SEO, look out for some of the videos from our head of digital, Rob, who does an awful lot around this and can offer some keen insights. But driving those links back to your website is another really important aspect of your social media. Another one is share and celebrate coverage, and it's something that a lot of organisations seem to fall down on, and it's a really easy one. If your press release appears in the Farmers Weekly, put a great story out there saying, thank you, it was fantastic coverage for our latest press release in Farmers Weekly. Tag them in and encourage them to share it as well, because if they're getting people celebrating and shouting about the great things they're doing, inevitably they're going to want to show that people are appreciating it, and they'll be sharing it as well. So again, it expands that reach, grows the audience. Another thing is a bit of budget. Is it worth putting a bit of budget behind it? Pretty much every social media channel is going to give you the opportunity to pay to boost whatever your social media thing is, and that gives you the opportunity. It goes back to what I was saying about building an audience. But by just putting a little bit of cash behind it, it doesn't cost a huge amount. You can boost the social media update that features your press release or content and gets it out to a wider audience. Again, that's going to encourage people to follow you, and it's going to grow your audience. It might help attract the attention of more journalists, etc. You know, it's just going to really start to build momentum behind what you're trying to do with that PR or content. So don't be afraid just to try boosting it a little bit. Just experiment with a little bit of cash, see what impacts you get, refine, tweak, adjust, look at your analytics and make sure it's delivering what you need. But it's a really good way to start to build your audience and start to build that engaged community around your social media, which will help ultimately to leverage your PR and content in the future as well. And the final thing is, really, if you're doing this successfully, you're going to be building quite a big engaged audience. Farming is a very defined community, so there's no reason why you can't build up a good, strong audience within that farming community. And if you do that, you can become your own publisher. And this is something I've done in other industries. For example, I worked with a really big higher education institute, and we had such a good engaged audience that I effectively stopped pushing out to journalists all the time, because I knew if I was using our social media channels effectively, not only would it be hitting our key audiences, so we were putting some great content out through social media, it became our own newsfeed. It was almost like our own magazine newspaper. But not only that, the journalists knew this, so they'd be following our news feeds as well, and they'd just pick up the stories from there. So do it right and think about how you can become your own publisher. You can start to promote your own content in a way where you're in control, you're showing your personality, and you've got some really good analytics and insights that's going to show you exactly what's landing. It's giving some incredible insights into the audience and helps to shape everything from your comms through to your sales messaging, your marketing, and probably your product development going forward. So that's quite an in-depth and overview of really how you can leverage your social media. But as always, if you've got any questions, just pick up the phone or drop me a line, and I'll be more than happy to talk through about some of these issues in more detail. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.